everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Jenny and I'm here today to do the next installment of talking through my shelves, and these videos are just what they sound like. They are me talking you through the books that I have physically on my shelves. I have a very large TBR, virtual TBR through my library system where I have like over 400 books on a list that I want to read, but these are the books that I actually own, and many of them I still have yet to read, so let's look at them today. Today I decided to share with you books in the theme of nature for hashtag Springathon, which is a readathon going on right now, and also Asian authors that I have on my physical shelves in honor of Asian Heritage Month. So I'm going to start with the Asian authors, which, to be honest, I don't have a huge amount of on my shelves. I do have a really large, a much larger amount of Asian authors on my TBR from the library. So there's 3 of them that are Canadian and 1 that is American. So Amy Tan, very famous Chinese-American author. She wrote the Joy Luck Club, and this book I have of hers was one that I got at a library sale called The Valley of Amazement. And this is a historical fiction that starts in Shanghai in 1912. And then kind of moves back in time between also San Francisco in 1897. So there's some different kind of eras being represented here. I believe it's kind of a family saga. And then this kind of, the main character is kind of grappling with her identity as a half Chinese, half American person. So I have not read any Amy Tan, as famous as she is, so I definitely hope to explore her writing, and hopefully it's writing that I enjoy, and then I'll read more of her work. I believe I also have one of her nonfiction books on my library TBR. The other 3 books are all Canadian authors. This one is called Forgiveness, A Gift from My Grandparents by Mark Sakamoto, and this one won the Canada Reads competition in 2018, and this is a kind of elimination TV show type show where a Canadian celebrity picks a book and champions that book, and then the books kind of go up against each other and they vote them off until there's a winner. So in 2018, Forgiveness was the winner. So this is a book that talks about the relationship of Mark Sakamoto's family to the government and to the situation of Japanese internment during World War II, and kind of coming through that, and the emotional toll of it and the physical toll of it. And this is an area that I find fascinating, and that is a really dark mark on the history of Canada, so I am very interested in reading this. The next one is The Jade, Peony by Wayson Choi, and this is a historical fiction set in Chinatown in Vancouver, and it's, you know, exactly that, historical fiction following a cast of characters living in Chinatown in the late 1930s and 1940s. So, you know, it's always important when you're living in an area to try to learn more about the history of that area. And so I'm very excited to read this Own Voices account of living in Chinatown in Vancouver. And this is Birds Art Life by McClure. And this is about a writer who lives in the city. She lives in Toronto, I believe, and this is a memoir about a year-long adventure chasing after birds in the city. So obviously this is right up my alley, as I really love birds in my own work, and so really interested in reading Kayo's perspective of dwelling with birds and what she learned, and how it affected her as a person. All right, so those are my Asian Readathon books. Now I'm going to go into Springathon themed books. And these kind of run the gamut as well. Following along with the bird theme, we have Crow Planet, Essential Wisdom from the Urban Wilderness by Lyanda, Lynn, Haupt. This is one of my favorite books ever. This is part memoir, part nature essay, nature writing, all about crows and crows living in an urban environment. Lyanda Lynn Haupt lived in Seattle, and so you follow, you learn about crows while you're learning about her interactions with them through her life. And it's a really great book. Highly, highly recommend this always. The next one I've also read, Wild by Cheryl Strayed. This is a very famous memoir. Been made into a film. The film is also very good. This is about Cheryl Strayed's walking of the Pacific Crest Trail, which runs from the Mojave Desert through California, Oregon, and into Washington State. And it's also a journey for her about her life and how lost she was, and she and her past with her family and her upbringing, and all that is tied into this trek that she takes. And she's not prepared, and she goes out there anyway, and it tells her story. And so it is a very inspiring story. It's also, there's some very harsh parts of it because she was a very troubled person, and she had a lot of difficult moments in her life that she conveys through the book. But I think in terms of a story of adventure and a story of, pushing through really hard times, it's a really great example of that. And I could see myself rereading it at some time in the future. The next two are both by David Suzuki. So this one is called Tree, A Life Story. It has art by fairly famous Canadian artist Robert Bateman, and this one was written by David Suzuki and Wayne Grady. And so this one is taking you through the life of a Douglas fir tree. And so it's very well written. And it has a lot of science in it, and a lot of it kind of relates in other parts of natural history through the different sections. So it starts with the birth of the tree, taking root, growth, and then all the way through maturity to death. And so that's kind of how the book is divided up. And so in terms of the actual parts of the tree and how trees grow and like the process of the biology of it all, that part was really interesting. Some of the more philosophical areas, I was reading this with my son Elliot, and he was only 10 at the time, so some of it went a little bit over his head, and also I found a little bit boring. But overall, I thought that the idea of following the tree through its life cycle was really beautiful. And so if you're interested in that type of nature writing, I would recommend this one. And then this is The Sacred Balance, Rediscovering Our Place in Nature by David Suzuki with Amanda McConnell. And this one is takes you through the elements and explains to you why they are sacred and why the science is showing us that we have to protect natural like the earth, the air, the water, that we have to protect these things in order to survive ourselves on the planet, but also to ensure that the planet continues to thrive. And so if you were looking for a way to convince someone that, we have to take care and change our mindset around natural resources, I think this is a really great book to present to someone. Okay, Sisters of the Earth is a collection edited by Lorraine Anderson. And this is a collection of nature writing, women's prose and poetry about nature. And there are some very, very beautiful essays and poems in here. I believe I picked this up at a secondhand store many years ago, and it kind of just takes you on a journey through all these different perspectives of women's connections with nature, but also just nature writing in general. So it's a really beautiful collection if you're looking for something along those lines. Next, I have The Red-Haired Girl from the Bog, The Landscape of Celtic Myth and Spirit by Patricia Monaghan. I have talked about this book quite extensively. I reread this last year, and this is a book that in a lot of ways kind of changed my life. It kind of gave me the words that I needed to articulate a certain aspect of my work. And so it's a deeply personal book to me in that way. This is a memoir, a spirituality memoir of Patricia Monaghan's travels to Ireland and her kind of looking for her roots, having grown up in Alaska as a settler and then traveling to Ireland, and trying to like connect with the land there and like feel a place of home. So it's very much along a lot of the themes that I work with in my own work. And it has a lovely element of spirituality to it and a little bit of history and a little bit of mythology all included in it. This is a new one to my collection, Walking in the Woods, a Métis Memoir by Herb Belcourt. And this is, exactly what it says, the remarkable story of a family's journey through hard times to good and a son's determination to overcome life's obstacles. So I've read quite a bit of Métis writing over the last 2 years, I'd say, probably 3 different books. But I mean, obviously the Métis culture is vast. There's a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different types of people who identify as Métis in Canada. And so this is just another perspective that I'm interested in learning about. And so I added it to my collection. I thought it also had a lovely nature-based title, so I was hoping that there was kind of a nature element to his writing that would connect and thread through this book. This is another bind-up, another collection of nature writing from north of the border, Bright Stars, Dark Trees, Clear Water, which was selected and edited by Grady. So the same writer that co-wrote Tree with David Suzuki. And so this brings together a whole bunch of different essays, Thoreau, Walt Whitman, John Muir, Barry Lopez, just a whole bunch of different North American writers. And I've dipped in and out of this. I've never really gone into it and read it cover to cover. I don't know if I ever would in a collection like this. This is something that I keep for when I'm kind of between books, or I want something seasonal, like I want to feel like I want to read about winter, or I want to read about a certain sensation of nature. Then I try to go to these types of books for that. And the last one is You Are Here, From the Compass to GPS, The History and Future of How We Find Ourselves by Hiawatha Bray. And this one I also picked up at a library sale, and I just thought it sounded really interesting. And that's really all I know about it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory on the back there, looking for how we navigate through the world and through nature. So those are my books that I'm going to talk to you about today. I will be back very soon with another video. There are more lists of books that I own and that I've read on my Goodreads, so if you would like to friend me there, I'm happy to chat with you there and chat with you in the comments. And I hope you have a really great day.